Remember, days after India-China border breakthrough, India-China begin disengagement at LAC. Now, days after Modi-Xi bilateral talks, that is, temporary tents removed at LAC. What we're given to understand is that sources suggesting the process began on Tuesday and pullback begins from Depsang and Demchok. Indian troop moved towards Chardang and Nula's western side. Remember, China's troops have been now moved towards the Chardang-Nula eastern side. Let's also tell you more details as far as this is concerned. Disengagement started in a phased manner, and on Tuesday, local commanders met in Demchok. Taking that point across to Pradeep Datta, my colleague, who will help us, of course, better understand this big development. Pradeep, very good morning. Given the fact that we're looking at the timing of this, considering what has really happened in the past couple of days, that is, what are we given to understand with that process now coming through?
Yes, whatever has been on paper is now being translated into action there on the ground. And disengagement and pullback of the troop has already started in the eastern sector of Ladakh, in Depsang and Demchok area. You rightly said the process started on Tuesday. When the Prime Minister was about to leave for the big summit. And that day, the commanders, local commanders on both the sides met, and finally on Wednesday, the tents were removed, temporary tents were removed from the Demchok area. And on Thursday, some tarpaulin structure and vehicle were also removed from the Depsang area. That is another face-off point. With the removal of the structure, now in coming days, it will take about a week or 10 days for the dismantling of the temporary structure tents from these areas, and finally the patrolling is going to start. And the modalities are already drawn in this regard, that when the patrolling will start, each of them have to inform the commanders there on the ground that they are going to patrol that particular area. Because earlier there were certain bottlenecks where the patrolling was not allowed either by the Chinese or the Indian side in Depsang. That is at the 16,000 feet height. On the other side is Korakam Ridge, and then there is a Dolan Break Oldie air base also. So the patrolling was not allowed. But now, after this disengagement and dismantling of infrastructure, the temporary infrastructure that is existing in these areas, the patrolling is going to start. That means Indian troops can now move up to the 11, 12, 13, and 14 patrolling point. They can easily move from that area to that place. And all is required is that they have to inform each other before starting a patrolling, so that there is no problem or skirmish between both the sides. In the meantime, the commanders, the tactical commanders, the local commanders on both the sides will keep on monitoring situation on the ground, the way this disengagement process is taking place. Because we know that a few days back only, Indian Foreign Secretary had announced in this regard that had paved the way for the dialogue bilateral between Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And after that bilateral, it was clear that now the things are going to ease up, because situation had been tense ever since there had been Galwan on May 2020. For since then, we have seen that both the troops had been, both the sides have been eyeball to eyeball with each other, and there was a lot of tension in the air, because it was in 2020 when the worst ever skirmish took place on the line of actual control in Galwan sector, when 20 of the Indian soldiers lost their lives, and in retaliation, 35 of the Chinese soldiers were killed. And since then, there had been several rounds of talk going on at the diplomatic level, and also the communication channel was open at the military level. 21 Corps Commander level talks had also been there. And finally, they have reached a consensus. There had been breakthrough in the standoff. And what is more important is that is all the Indian terms and conditions, because India always wanted there should be a status quo on the border, which China was trying to disturb after the Galwan thing. And finally, now the status quo will be restored once the dismantling of the structures, temporary infrastructure will start taking place, because already it has started. It will another 1 week or 10 days. The process will be over, and then finally the patrolling on both the sides in Depsang as well as in Demchok area will resume. So this is a very good and healthy sign for both the countries, that finally their area will be peaceful, because otherwise there was an airy calm. There was a tension, because already India had made it clear, unless and until situation on the borders will not be normal, the relation between the two countries can't be normal. So normalization process has started, because once disengagement will take place, it will lead to then it will lead to normalization of the border management, and finally the patrolling will resume.
Right, Pradeep. In fact, as you draw things into perspective, overall, as you're looking at this situation with what we've looked at in major breakthroughs also coming through, and now, like you said, that dialogue being translated into action, geopolitically, how do you think this is being viewed as well?
To be very important, because we saw that one picture just 2 days back when all the three giants like Vladimir Putin as well as Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi were sitting on the one talking table during the dinner time and during the big summit. And that was a very important picture because, one, it is about the multipolar world, not the unipolar world, which Americans and others had been trying to ensure. And then the second thing is that BRICS summit, if we look at it, it comprises of about the 41% of the population, 24% of the GDP, and 16% of the trade. And when these two giants talk to each other, and then there's a normalization of the situation of the border, that is really going to make a difference because already we have seen that there will be cooperation at different level. And already Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made it clear that talks and terror can't go together because that way we have seen in the past that China had been siding with Pakistan on several terror-related issues, whether it was about designating anybody as a global terrorists. We have always seen that China had been siding with Pakistan. But now with both the countries restoring the dialogue bilateral between the two countries, I think the things are really going to change and that will really make a difference in this region. This is not only going to ensure cooperation, but at the strategic level, but also at the military level. Because see, a lot of spending had been going on in the mobilization of troops from both the sides because for 24/7, 365 days, they were eyeball to eyeball with each other. Now that money will be at least utilized for the welfare of the people in the development of the border region instead of mobilizing troops. Otherwise, a lot of spending was going on in mobilization of the troops in this region. But with the normalization of the situation on the ground, it is also going to normalize relations between the two countries. At the end of the day, that India and China continues to remain the two giants, the dragon and the elephant have to be together. Otherwise, it will be really problematic for both the countries because it's not going to be easy to ensure that the mobilization of the troops continues forever. So I think that's a better thing that there has been a breakthrough in the standoff. But what is more important is that it is on India's term and condition because India really wants a status quo. India had finally made China agree to its position and the status quo will be restored once there will be proper disengagement of the troops in this region. That's what India had been asking for because India always wanted. India is not someone that believes in expansion. So India is not an expansionist regime. India always believes safety, security, and integrity of their side, and that's what India had believed in. But I think now with that, the things will be better on the border, and the cooperation between the two countries is going to increase. Also, give a flip to the trade, and economies is also going to boost in the coming days.
Right, Pradeep. Thank you very much for not only joining us with the latest, but helping us draw a better perspective as to how we're looking at this entire situation as well between both the countries. Having said that, let's leave it at that for the moment. Let's now shift our focus to the latest.